Okay, chapter 35. As you can see behind me in the shop is the sleeper. So I did get it, but what I need to do is start this segment out by showing you some stuff that was done at the end of last week before I picked up the sleeper and the axle. And regarding that doghouse, regarding the intake manifold on the engine, let me just get some of that stuff out of the way, and I'll bring you back and relate to you how I picked up the sleeper and axle and how I got it into the shop. Okay, back on the haul truck. What I've done this morning is I came in and made a template to fill in that top spot of that piece. So I've got that in. I don't have all the rivets in. I just kind of wanted to get the rivets in so it was fixed in place. Get some rivets in so it was fixed in place so that I could come over here and test fit it again and make sure that it was going to fit, and it will. I mean, I've got to do a little tweak of sheet metal. You know, I'll put it in and kind of twist it and conform it into the way that I want it to fit in there so that it fits in there properly. But anyways, that's done. Well, it's not done. It's not in place, and I've still got to come up with how I'm going to address that hole in the bottom. I mean, I'm just going to probably add a piece of sheet metal into it, you know, pop rivet it on. Again, the inside of it is going to be coated with that PRO15 or whatever it is, that paint that I'm using on the frame. And then probably what I will do is get some undercoating stuff and spray on the inside of it also, to kind of give it a more solid coating on the inside, so it just helps protect it and dampens vibration sounds and stuff like that. Now on the inside, I'm going to treat it like I do the rest of the truck and put that some kind of insulation, whether it's that like foil wrap stuff that they put in vehicles, and then whatever I'm going to be using. I'm not even sure what I'm going to be using, whether I'm going to be using like a rubber floor mat with maybe some insulation under it, or if I'm going to be putting some insulation and carpeting, but that will all go over that so that there will be sound deadening and insulation properties to it also. One of the other things that I'm doing, and I'm over here to the vertical mill, this is a plate that I might be using as the intake runner for the intake manifold. Now, when I say I might be, I'm kind of unsure whether I want to build this thing. Well, okay, so I want to build an intake manifold, and my first thought was to build it out of metal and put the intake manifold out the side, but then I started thinking about maybe building the thing out of carbon fiber. The only thing, if I build it out of carbon fiber, and I got to do kind of some research on this, is the forming the flange where the bolts go through to bolt into the top of the head or the air plenum on the head. I'm not sure how much stress that would be under, and how I would, if I can just use a thickness of carbon fiber to secure it, or if I would actually have to maybe form a piece of metal into it to help secure where it bolts down. So in the meantime, what I'm doing is just drilling this plate out, and I will continue along those lines until I make up my mind whether I'm going to use this for sure or whether I might be going to carbon fiber. I had showed you a shot of me working on that plate for the air intake, or let's call it the intake manifold. The intake manifold, which I had discussed previously in another video, would sit on top of the air plenum that's on the head and go into it. My thoughts along the way have always been to make it out of steel, a steel plate, and what I would do is dome it up and have a 4-inch intake into the side of it, which would kind of resemble something like that if you looked at it from the end. What my problem was is this thing is very narrow. That opening in the air plenum of the head is only 2 inches wide. Now it's 21 inches long, but it's only 2 inches wide. So if I build this thing on top of it, what happens is this 4-inch flow comes into here and crashes into the back wall of that thing, creating turbulence and an air dam kind of almost, before it's allowed to go back down. Now it's going to go back down because this is under pressure. It's under pressure from the turbocharger, and when the cylinder goes through its intake stroke, you're actually kind of sucking a vacuum on it as the piston goes down and the intake valve opens up. Like a normally aspirated engine, it sucks a vacuum and pulls that air-fuel mixture in. Well, here it's because it's a diesel, it's on the downstroke and it's going down and pulling air into it. Well, it's pulling air into it, but at the same time you got a turbocharger behind it. But regardless of all of that, you've still got this damming effect here where the air is crashing into the backside of that thing and creating turbulent flow in there. Now what I did is kind of just did some calculations. If you remember that opening I had showed you over here prior on a video, prior video about that intake runner, and how it was 2 1/8 inches wide and 21 inches long. What I did is took that area of that opening, which happens to be 44.625. Then I took the volume of a cylinder, which is the engine is 504, but I actually figured it out per cylinder, and it comes out to 84.21. And that's the cubic inches of the cylinder, or the volume of the cylinder, when it's on fully in the down position. That's how much air is in there, 84.21. Now if you compare that to the opening of that intake runner, which is only 44 inches, you can see that. And again, understand the fact that the intake runner is under pressure from the turbocharger and it's forcing air in through there. But still, I want to create more of a flow. So I'm back to, I'm probably going to continue work on that steel one and see if I can, without having a lot of equipment to work on steel sheet metal, basically this, let's call it heavy gauge sheet metal, this thing is going to be made out of. I can't really get this to a curved thing in here to create a linear flow, a curved flow that is more indicative or inducive of getting air smoothly into that intake thing. So, but if I did it out of carbon fiber, what I can do is create a mold out of something, and form the carbon fiber around it, which kind of shapes, I can make it shaped that way, because it's not like I'm taking the stiff carbon fiber and trying to form it, or in the case of metal, trying to form the metal to make it. It's pretty hard to do. I mean, if you had rollers and stuff like that, it would be easier, but it's a lot easier to form carbon fiber around a mold. So I'm going to continue work on that steel intake, but my thought train right now is going towards carbon fiber, so that I can get a better linear flow into that intake runner. But I just wanted you to know, because sometimes what happens is I start working on something and pull off. Well, in this case, I started working on it and then pulled off because my thoughts were maybe I should be making this thing out of carbon fiber so that I can get a better intake design that's going to provide a better linear flow into the thing. Okay, it's Tuesday morning. Last chapter, 34, I told you that I had secured an axle and a sleeper. Well, yesterday, Monday, I went down to there and the salvage yard and picked it up. And again, I had told you in chapter 34 that the sleeper, all I had seen it was up on top of the connex. I never was able to get up on it, see the backside of it, or see the interior. Well, I got it when I went there yesterday. They had taken it down off of the connex, had it on a big skid, ready to put it on my trailer. And I saw the guy that taken me around and looked for the battery boxes, and I saw him, and he says, you know, we got that sleeper down, and he says, I think you're really gonna like it. It's really clean inside, and it's even got a refrigerator in it. So lo and behold, while I was waiting for the guy to show up with a forklift, I was able to get into it, and the thing is really clean inside. Now it's on my trailer. It's on the trailer with the axle, the front axle, but it is raining really hard outside. So I'm not going to take you outside and show it to you. Hopefully, I think I'm going to have to get some fork extensions for the forklift truck. I know where, I think I know where I might be able to borrow some. But so I'm not going to be able to take you outside and show it to you, but it is just pouring outside. So hopefully we can get this all together and I'll be able to show it to you today. But again, I'm really happy with it. Okay, you're probably wondering what's going on here. Where is a tour of the sleeper? Where is footage of unloading it and bringing it into the shop? This is my grandson. What he's going to be doing is picking the locks to those compartments underneath the sleeper. When I got the sleeper, I did not get any keys for it, so to get into it, he's going to pick the locks on it. So as he's doing this, I'm just going to do this voiceover. What happened is when I picked it up, is in previous videos of that salvage yard, it is just chaotic. You're standing around waiting for somebody to show up with a forklift truck to get the stuff loaded onto your trailer, and it's just chaotic. So I did not film any of it. I didn't even take the camera with me because it was just a miserable day again. I got the thing back good on a Monday. Parked the trailer because I didn't get back until late in the afternoon. I parked the trailer, and then on Tuesday we unloaded it. Tuesday again was a miserable day. It was raining on and off, and it was just extremely windy all day long. This is my grandson picking the lock, as I had said, and the two of us unloaded the sleeper and the axle off of the trailer on Tuesday, and it was, again, really windy, and he was a little leery of picking this thing up unrestrained off of the trailer with a forklift because of the wind gusts. But we did get it off okay. Again, I did not videotape any of this. So what I'm going to do is we're showing you him picking the lock in real time. As you saw from the start, he was selecting some of his picking tools to use on it, and so it's going to be done in real time. After this segment is over, I'm going to take you on a little tour of it. Again, the lighting conditions aren't really great. I went in there and kind of show you a tour of it with a flashlight. Before that, I'm going to show you a walk around of it and show you the axle that I got too. But here is the picking in real time. So as he continues along with this, I'm going to tell you that what I did is I went on the internet trying to find lock sets to replace this so that I could get keyed lock sets so that I could have a key to open it. The thing opens with a key. There is no turn knob on it where you unlock it and turn the knob to open it. It actually physically opens with a key. So you have to have a key to open this style of door. When I went on there, I could not find a lock set for it. But subsequently, what I have found out is that the ignition key was the key that also opened these doors. So here I am. I did locate ignition sets so that you could replace a tumbler in your ignition on the truck and replace the tumblers on this, but I didn't think that that's what I wanted. But again, subsequently I found out that that's what they used. It was the ignition key to open these things up. So I'm not really sure right now whether I'm going to take the tumblers to a locksmith and have him just rekey it, or buy one of them sets off of the internet. But what he had done just then was to go get a small screwdriver to help turn it while he picked the lock, and as you can see, it opened right up. But anyways, we'll bring you back for a tour of it. Okay, got the sleeper into the shop. I'm going to give you a walk around, and then I'll take you inside of it. We'll take a walk around the outside of it first. There is a couple of little dents. I don't know whether it'll pick it up on the camera. You might be able to see them right above. And I'm going to assume that mount down there is a stack mount, as is this. Anybody familiar with that? Blue Stream Dairies Incorporated. I kind of did a Google search on it, and the only Blue Stream dairy that I could find was in Ohio, and they really don't have a website, so can't see if that logo fits anything. Again, we ended up picking the locks to get them open. Originally, I thought that window was busted, but it turned out to be a spider web. And these stainless steel brackets up here are for backup lights, or kind of spotlights for cargo lights. But anyways, there it is. So as you can see, there's ductwork in there. Now, in a previous video, I mentioned that there was a refrigerator. Refrigerator is up here. Hang on a minute. Okay, sorry for this until I get light in here. Just gonna have to go with the spotlight for now. So here's the refrigerator, kind of dirty, but it's a refrigerator. Hanging closet. There's a bar up there to hang stuff off of. Of course, it hasn't been cleaned out yet. Lights all over the place. There's two like reading lights over there. There's 2 lights up here and like a fluorescent fixture up here. Plenty of storage space. And up there, I've never actually seen up there, so I haven't. Kind of need a stool or something to see up there. Then there's that little storage area in there. Outlets all over the place, and I'll show you that. Now we had to, like I said, we had to pick the lock because I came in here and lifted this mattress up thinking that would be the access point for it. The other cool thing is, maybe you can see that on that thing, came out of a Peterbilt. But the bunk raises up. And looky there, a heater. So got a heater in there. The only thing that's not in here that I could possibly ever want also would be an inverter, but you know, I'll put that in there. So this thing over here is like fold out drawers and stuff. This upper one needs some oil. This upper one is like a little desk where you can put your laptop or something, or write paperwork. I think that one down there is for like hanging folders, and there's a place for, looks like there was might have been a TV in here because that looks like a television cable. 12-volt outlets up there. So I gotta tell you, I'm really happy with this thing. Really happy with it. Now what I'm gonna do is contact these people, because here is the wiring harnesses off of it. Now I could get a 12-volt thing and kind of go through it pin by pin and try and figure out where they're going to, but my first option is to get a hold of them and see if I can get a wiring diagram for it. I have the manufacturer, the plates were on there One was in the back and Unibuilt. Unibuilt Ultra Cab. The other plate is in the storage compartment, or is sitting on the triangle box right now. But I am really happy, really happy. So I'll bring you back. Oh, here's the axle. Disc brakes, hydraulic. The spring spacing on those, what was those U-bolts before they cut them off, is a little wider than mine, but the spacing of the two springs is exactly the same. So really happy about this stuff, really happy. Okay, bring you back. So, okay, back on the Ford haul truck. What I did is I moved the sleeper to a different part of my shop, kind of got her over here by the welding area, just to get it out of the way of the bay that I usually drive into to wash my truck, service my truck, work on other vehicles. I had mentioned in the previous video, and I don't know whether I had definitely pegged this thing from a Peterbilt. Now, in starting to research Unibuilt, who made this sleeper, it's not a company. It's actually part of Peterbilt. The VIN number from this sleeper is supposed to match the VIN number from the truck. Now, how I know that is, again, I tried to do a lot of searching on the internet to find stuff out, and probably after an hour of going through bullshit, because, and when I say bullshit, it's not really bullshit, it's when you plug this stuff in, what comes up is eBay sales or truck places that are selling sleepers. You really can't get definite information about is Unibuilt a division of Peterbilt, or how does it work? But let me tell you what I did today. I kind of thought, why don't you go down to Peterbilt and see what they say? And what happened is I went down there, and I got to tell you, the guy, I went to the service desk and I was asking one of the counter guys, and another guy came out when he heard my question, came out and helped me kind of, and said if I could identify this sleeper, and I will explain how you identify it in a second, that he would be able to get me wiring diagrams. They can get me a new seal to fit around the thing. But there's a multitude of things that they can do. He helped me out with the heater. I was kind of, he said if it's a heater over in the right-hand side of the sleeper, it is a factory heater, and that heater is run by the cooling system from the engine. So in other words, to provide heat to the sleeper, I have to connect this thing up, this heater up to the cooling, or in this case heating lines off of there. He says if you get underneath the sleeper, you should also find, because I asked him about the controls which says cooling, He says, then you're probably going to find 2 lines down there that would have connected to the condenser on the truck for the air conditioning. So this heater is totally a function of heating and cooling from the truck engine. Because I asked him, I says, well, it's not a diesel-fired heater, and he says, no. If it's a diesel-fired heater, it would have been an aftermarket heater. It would have been located in the center of the crawl space or the storage space in there, and he says that there would have been a name on it. I forgot the name of the manufacturer, but he told me the name of the manufacturer that provides aftermarket diesel-fired heaters. Now, the difference between those heaters and what I have is, again, what I have functions off of the engine cooling, or let's call it heating, because you're taking the hot water from the cooling system and using it to heat the sleeper just the same way as you do the cab in the truck. So the engine would have to be running. Aftermarket heaters that run off of diesel fuel do that exactly. You don't have to have the engine running. They have a little pump, and it pumps diesel fuel out of the tank up into the heater and heats off of diesel fuel. But let me explain to you how he told me. He says the VIN number of the sleeper, and the sleeper does have a VIN number, is the same VIN number as the truck. Now, look at that VIN number is 5N846823. He told me where to find it. He says, I said, I haven't located one. Let me bring it back because I'm going to need a light back here. So down there in between 2 rivets is a little tag with the VIN number on it. And ironically, he says the VIN number will match the truck number. Now, you saw the VIN number on the truck. This VIN number that's on this tag is off 2 digits. The ending 2 digits, this is 4, and what's on the truck is 6 on the final digit. But you know, probably without him taking me out, he actually took me out into the yard to a Peterbilt truck and showed me the VIN number off of the sleeper on that new truck. And he says all Peterbilt trucks have that VIN number down there. He says sometimes if you go to a salvage yard, though, they'll pull that plate off of there, but I got lucky and it is there. So he said if you can give me that number, there's a very good chance that he can get me the wiring diagram. Definitely can get me the boot that goes in between the sleeper and the cab. Let me take you over to the truck. Okay, yesterday I took you over to the sleeper and was talking about going to the Peterbilt dealership and showing you that VIN number tag on the back of the sleeper. I came over here and continued that video, and what happened, I was holding that flashlight, and I didn't realize it until I downloaded the videos how bad it blew it out. So let me cut off here, and I'm going to show you a little segment of that. I'm going to show you something that's kind of a little ironic. And before I show you this piece of paper came from quite a while ago, long before I knew what sleeper I was going to get. I had gone on the internet and got some dimensions on a sleeper. And ironically, those dimensions are off a 379 Peterbilt. And what do you think that I ended up buying? A sleeper, a Unibuilt sleeper off a 379 Peterbilt. And we're back. So what I was talking about was this piece of paper. That's a piece of paper, and hopefully you can see it. hopefully you can see it. And that's what I was talking about, how ironic it was that I had got those dimensions off of the internet, and it turned out that I got that exact same sleeper. One of the other things that I talked about was I established a center line over there. You can see that straight line going up, kind of just offset of the cab. That indentation in the cab. You didn't know these indentations are put in the cab to strengthen the panel, keep it from getting that tinny effect, bowing tinny effect when you go over bumps. Anyways, that's the center line. And what I did is come out here and mark the opening again. And I had showed this into it yesterday, but I was holding that flashlight and it was blowing the thing out totally. So there's the center line. As you can see, I'm sorry, it's not the center line. That's the opening of the sleeper. And the rubber seal fits on the outside of it. And as you can see, the opening passes through the window plane a little bit, but it should be covered by the seal. So what the issue is, I've done the same thing over on the other side. What the issue is, though, is the sleeper does stick up above the top of the cab. And not only does the sleeper stick up above the top of the cab, the opening extends up above the top of the cab. So I guess I've touted the benefits of that sleeper and what a great deal I've got. So I guess this is the downfall of it, is I've got to come up with something that will seal off in between the top of the cab and that sleeper opening, or above the sleeper opening, so that I can get that rubber weather stripping sealant in between the cab and the sleeper. But again, I had shown that, and I'll kind of insert some clips of it here. And as you can see, the light from that flashlight just blew the whole thing out, and I didn't realize that was happening at the time. But anyways, we're continuing on. I'm probably going back to the Peterbilt dealer today to see if I can get the wiring schematic and see about that seal in between the doors.